Hello, Comment229 here with another Topic of the Week video, and this week I'll be discussing Legend of Korra again, specifically Korra's aggressive personality and her mastery of bending. This week's topic was submitted by a Tumblr anon, and their topic is thoughts on how Korra was made to be extremely aggressive and that she somehow mastered 3 elements at age 4 while Aang struggled to master them. Okay, I'll talk about the elements first. The thing that really comes down to is what Legend of Korra was supposed to be compared to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Legend of Korra was initially meant to be just a 1-season miniseries. That's all it was supposed to be. That's why Book 1 ended in such a conclusive way and it is sloppy, but it wrapped up all the plot points and basically everything gets reset back to how it was before without any really true, open, any chances to actually explore. I mean, outside of a few things, but Korra gets all her bending returned to her at the very end, just like that, handed it back to her on a silver platter by the Deus Ex Machina. You had Korra learn energy bending like that, and it's like she didn't even actually get the explanation of energy bending. There's no meaning to it. She doesn't actually do anything for it. Aang's like, all right, here's energy bending, and she's like, all right, everyone's got their bending back. Whoops, Amon didn't do anything at all. Yeah, that's what Legend of Korra was supposed to be. 1 season. That's why Korra starts off with having known 3 elements since she was 4, and why her only element to master was air. That's what that was the intention. I'm not saying it was executed well, because if you know me at all, that I don't know I say it was not executed well. But Korra knew those elements specifically because she was supposed to be played up as the opposite of Aang. And this is done, personality-wise, which I'll get to in a bit, and thematically when it comes to, the story, and, particularly when it comes to the strength level. Korra didn't have as far to go as Aang did when it came to being a fully realized avatar. And Korra, with only 1 season, it actually would have been a terrible idea to have Korra start off with just water and have to learn 3 elements within a single season while also having the big complex political, plot with Amon. There just would have been too much. They could barely handle just 2 or 3 plot lines with, Amon and the Equalists, the romance and the pro-bending. All that was just too much for 1 season. Particularly a season as short as, the Legend of Korra seasons were. Because if it was a full 20-episode season, you might have been able to get away with it. Or 20, maybe even 26, like some anime. But with, 12, no. You just couldn't, you really couldn't do that. It'd be too much. So I understand from that perspective. But Korra, I actually don't even mind Korra having learned all 3 elements by age 4. I mean, she didn't master them. She was capable of it, and she didn't master them until the start of Book 1, because specifically that was her test, and they were like, okay, you're proficient in water bending, earth bending, and fire bending, and now you have to learn air. And she's just like, yeah. So I didn't mind that because that basically freed up the plot to only focus on 1 element, air. And while they missed the point, it was actually a really good setup. And I mean, I actually, years back, actually started rewriting Book 1 of Legend of Korra. And I know a lot of people have asked me about this, of how I would handle it. There are a few different approaches I could take, but the preferred one that I have is just making Book 1. Just Book 1. Just rewriting Book 1. And I've actually thought this since I was watching Book 2. You could do more, and I actually, if someone put a gun to my head and said, rewrite all 4 books, I could come up with something, and I actually do have a lot of ideas for that. But if you asked me, if I had complete and total creative control, I'd just rewrite Book 1, focus on learning air, and that's a completely separate topic. I just wanted to say that, the idea of this was actually really solid. It just wasn't written well. What this does, I mentioned before that Korra was meant to be the opposite of Aang, and where Korra is brash and headstrong, Aang is more thoughtful and careful. And when she would rather fight, Aang would rather, redirect. He would rather dodge. He would rather avoid the conflict, as per the air nomad teachings. And, and where Aang started off learning who only knew airbending, being an air nomad, Korra had learned by the start of the series the other three. So, I don't think that really sets Korra up as a very different character. And I actually answered an ask about this not too long ago. It was a little while ago. That what this does is that this sets up Korra to learn different lessons than Aang. Aang didn't need to learn anything about airbending. He was already an airbending master by age 12. What he needed to learn were the other elements. Korra, by contrast, needed to learn the elements of airbending, which is why her headstrong, selfish, self-righteous, arrogant personality really worked for that. And I don't mind that Korra was aggressive and selfish and basically just a douchebag, honestly. I don't mind that at first. In fact, when Korra first came in for the first couple episodes and I actually liked that she had that, that personality, that self-important, she was naive, but she was too arrogant to actually admit her naivety. So instead of, actually trying to find out more about what these equalists are and why are people having an issue, it's just, you're impressing yourselves. It's not even thinking about what she's saying, which is fine at the start, because it's actually really great to see a character start off at a fairly low point in terms of how good they are and grow to be better. And it's like with Zuko's character arc across Avatar: The Last Airbender. You see Zuko start off as being a complete prick in book 1. He has some sympathetic moments, a sympathetic backstory, but he treats people around him like crap. He's selfish. He got anger issues. And you see him improve over the course of the series, and he has, his whole character arc until, the last part, the last section of the show after he turns on Ozai and goes to train Aang in firebending. You see him grow into a better character, and while Korra didn't have 3 seasons, 1 season was really enough, especially considering that Book 1 of Legend of Korra does obviously take place over a significant amount of time. There was a lot of time to develop her character into being a better person, so that by the end of Book 1, when they say that she's a fully realized avatar, you could actually believe it. With Korra, it's just, the problem is that she was never really developed. She never changed. And even when she did make certain changes, even when the narrative said she changed and said she grew, like at the end of book 1, when Tenzin's like, "You're the Avatar, you're a great Avatar, Korra," basically Tenzin just ended up becoming a cheerleader to just tell us how much Korra had grown. Or at the end of book 2, when Korra is just like, "Well, sucks to be you guys, but I'm gonna keep the spirit portals open because I don't think the Avatar gets to make that choice, even though I'm making that choice for you," and it was a mess. But and even in the end of book 2, or during Korra's spirit world journey in book 2, where she turned into a kid and then Iroh talked to her and then all of a sudden she turned into an adult again, she's just like, "I learned a lesson!" And it's like, no you didn't. That's the narrative telling us she grew. It's telling us she grew. It's not showing us that she grew. I mean, literally it showed us. But instead of having Korra learn this, it fell into the trap of, telling but not showing. We never saw Korra really grow. She just had these spurts of absolute change, and then eventually would go back to her regular personality. And you see this in every season. You see, this happens. Korra has continually circular development. She starts off selfish, self-righteous, important, and arrogant. She starts to change, and you think she's going to change, but then whoop, she goes all the way back. And then this cycle keeps repeating over and over and over again until Korra ends up being the same person every time. Even by the people are like, "Well, look, she grew so much in book 4. Well, yeah, if you look at Turf Wars, she's basically back to being nothing but a selfish jerk again. Because Brian and Mike are incapable of actually writing these character developments. By contrast, you see Aang does grow, even just in book 1, because you see he started off really not wanting to be the Avatar, and ultimately he did realize, I have to be the Avatar, it's my duty, and he did grow into being a better person so by the end of book 3, when you see him wearing that whole special garb, and he's with Zuko, and they're basically a new era, post-war. You believe that Aang is a fully realized Avatar. Excuse me. Korra, you can't believe it because, well, there's no real growth. Her personality doesn't truly develop. And it's not like, and even when it did develop, it basically had to, like in the end of book 4, it basically had to rob her of a lot of her personality. And Korra does have a fun personality. And something that Brian and Mike don't understand is that you can have a character still retain the core of their being while developing into a better person. Zuko retained the core of his being throughout the entire show. It's just that he changed into a better version of himself. Korra could have done that too, despite the fact that Korra is, arrogant, self-righteous, douchey, completely self-absorbed and focused on the physical aspects of bending. You can actually have her develop while still retaining the fun aspects, her playful nature, her fun, gung-ho attitude. You can keep those elements of her character while still developing her into a better person, not stripping her away of her personality in order to go, look at me, I'm the Avatar Korra and I am mature. And then ultimately just to revert her back to her book 1, episode 1 personality. And this is the problem that we always end up with Korra. So with her personality oh my gosh, the problem is that Korra never truly develops. And I wanted to see her develop. When we see her try to use her Avatar status to get out of jail after Lin captures her, after she's captured by the metal bending police, and Lin basically says, I don't care, I don't give a flying crap if you're the Avatar, you still broke the law. And we needed Korra to face these struggles and to face issues such as Tarlok's political manipulations, Amon playing the city and playing the non-benders in order to siding with him and turning them into terrorists, by manipulating their issues with benders. Korra needed to face these issues to become more diplomatic, more thoughtful, more caring, and to be a better person and a better Avatar. And ultimately, if she did that, and she unlocked airbending through meditation, training, and understanding, that sometimes conflict isn't necessary, and sometimes you must, do things in ways that aren't violent, and not just fixing your problems until they go away. But she never did that, and that's the problem with Korra's personality. Her starting off being so awful in book 1, early in book 1 is fine. Even her crush on Mako, even some of the things she did, which are honestly horrid. Not stuff like her making out with Mako when he was dating Asami, but just a lot of her attitude, that feeling entitled to him. If she grew past that, it would have been better. And I've said this a lot, but after it was found out that Hiroshi was an equalist and Asami was basically put out of house and home, when Korra tells Mako to go to Asami because she needs you, that stuff, if we had more moments like that, where Korra was showing true development, that she didn't see Asami as just that evil witch who stole Mako from me, or, just a rich floozy, or the time in episode 4 when Korra admitted to Tenzin her fears regarding Amon, and after she had to basically drop the fact that, she was being too prideful when she challenged Amon to combat, expecting a fair fight from a terrorist leader. If we had moments like that that really showed her character develop consistently, she would have been a much better character. Korra, I mentioned before that Korra at times is borderline a Mary Sue. And it's... The problem is that Korra learns abilities just to be cool. I mentioned this before in a previous topic video, where Korra learns abilities just to be cool. And Brian and Mike were focused on the cool, it being cool, her looking cool, and that's really all there is to her abilities. Korra, like thematically, Korra having learned firebending, earthbending, and waterbending before learning airbending before the show starts. Even when she was 4 years old, capable of bending these. I don't mind if she's a prodigy. I really don't care. As long as they develop it. Because they actually start off by showing that she's so focused on the physical aspects of bending, and she's really good at that. But when it comes to spiritual aspects, when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to, airbending, she's incompetent. Introducing to us the main issue with her character, something that she could have grown into, she could have solved these problems by growing into them and becoming a more complete avatar. Instead of just punching and getting airbending, because that's not how airbending works. But really, a lot of these things became problems simply because of the bad writing. If you just take these ideas by themselves and you introduce them to the story from narrative-wise, from the story setup, to the limitations of a single season, to the themes of the season, and the differences between it and Avatar: The Last Airbender, comparing a one-season miniseries of 12 episodes to a 61 episode show, then yeah, obviously there's going to be differences in how this plays out. Aang had learned one element, and each season he learned another element until he learned all 4 elements and ultimately challenged Ozai. Korra didn't have that. Korra didn't need that. Korra didn't have a giant world-threatening, crazy, maniacal, firebending leader trying to destroy the world. He was Amon. It was a terrorist, and one that challenged her in a way that really should have helped her grow. It should have brought out the better aspects of her through development, but it didn't. And ultimately, when it comes to this is one of the biggest faults of Legend of Korra. The writing is just bad, and it doesn't even support the cool ideas that it has, and there are good ideas in Legend of Korra. There's a reason why I liked Legend of Korra at first. It wasn't just because I was, acting like a blind fanboy when the show first started. I legitimately liked the show, and rewatching it, there are things that I genuinely like about Book 1. And that's because they are good things, and these are good ideas. Focusing on a singular element for Korra to work on in terms of the actual bending, the form training, which she got down, the philosophies and the thought process of the air nomad, where she would have to change how she acted, which she actually did in episode 2, A Leaf in the Wind, when she started applying airbending training to pro-bending, which really, pro-bending should have been used to facilitate her training in airbending, but that can be talked about all on its own. And I really do. And actually, it's something interesting to talk about, how pro-bending was playing a role in her becoming a better airbender, but it was suddenly dropped. But that's not what this is about. So yeah, I think that's about it that I can really talk about when it comes to this topic. But yeah, specifically, there are a lot of good ideas. Korra being a jerk isn't bad at first, because she should have developed into a better, more likable person. And even then, she still had likable aspects, like particularly when she interacted with Bolin early on. You can see there are a lot of good things about her character, regardless of the bad. So she could have, those should have shown through. Those good aspects should have shown through the development. And her bad aspects should have been curtailed and developed into, her understanding that, she shouldn't act like that. And her bending should have been focusing on what was established in the first episode, but ultimately wasn't. So, yeah, I think I'm about done with this topic. I could go on and on about Legend of Korra over and over again, but I'll stop it right here. So if you want to submit a topic to me, comment below if you're on YouTube, and if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and do topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. If you want to watch, just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here. when I get that done. And thank you for watching.